Hey there, Lexi Grenzer here. Thanks for joining me. We're going to work on some cute little concrete pots today. Grab yourself a marinara jar that I've gone ahead and washed thoroughly, and grab your Dewdrop mold by IOD and some CementAll. It's a 4-to-1 ratio when mixing, so basically just eyeball it. Put about 4 parts of the CementAll powder into the jar, and then you're just going to go ahead and add 1 part water to that. Close the lid off really tight, and then go ahead and give it a good shake. Once you've got both of those incorporated, you can go ahead and pour those into your mold. Now, the important thing to consider here is as long as that lid is nice and tight, you should be good and not have any leaking. But again, you're going to want to shake for probably a solid 5 minutes just to make sure that everything is mixed well. Once all of your concrete is thoroughly mixed, you can go ahead and pour all of the concrete into the molded elements. I'm using a little transfer stick to kind of guide the concrete in all the nooks and crannies of this little piece. It's a little bit easier if you try to keep them leveled off. This way, when you apply them later to the pots, they're not too wobbly and wonky on the back sides. Try to keep them as flat as possible. If you have any excess, you can go ahead and pour it directly into your silicone molds. I have a 3-pack from Amazon that I purchased, and you've got 3 little shapes here. So an oval, a square, and a circle. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour all that concrete in. After about an hour, you can go ahead and demold your pieces. I did a test run using the Quickcrete concrete for this initial set of pots. And as you're going to see as I demold, some of the rock and mortar actually broke around the edges of the pot. I kind of like the imperfections. It just gave a lot of character to the front of the pot, especially for any kind of a cottage core theme. So I intentionally crumbled a bit more and removed any of the excess pieces and still used this for my projects going forward. But I did want to note that if you want to have perfectly poured pieces in your silicone molds, don't use Quickcrete. You definitely want to use the CementAll. It's a much smoother, cleaner concrete to work with for hobby purposes. So go ahead and mix up a bit more of your CementAll, pour in the rest of your molded pots, and let those set up completely. When you've used up all of the CementAll, be sure to wipe the rim of the jar and the inside of the lid. You can continue to use the same jar until the inside is so heavily caked that it's literally not going to be useful anymore. So it's kind of nice to be able to use these jars multiple times and not feel so guilty about, sort of ending up in the landfill. I love using what I have on hand. When it comes time to demold your Dewdrop pond elements, carefully remove the little elements by rolling the silicone mold up. You are definitely going to have some breakage, particularly in the fiddly little parts like antennas or even in the hummingbird beak. But don't toss all of the wreckage, because a lot of those pieces still look really pretty in the concrete on pots. They almost look like a fossilized element. So don't be bummed out, just kind of use what works, and also just be more careful when pouring in the future in those really delicate little spots. Now we're ready to go ahead and connect our concrete poured molded elements to our pots. Mix up a bit more CementAll. This time, don't use quite as much water. You want this to be a thicker batch. Pour a little into a condiment cup and then go ahead and use something small. Little spoon, plastic spoon is great too. And you can pour a little of the concrete out onto the pot, sort of settle your molded element into it. And then I like to use a baby wipe and my fingers to kind of smooth around the edges and help incorporate the molded pieces into my pot. So there you have it, cute little gardening pots that you can plant succulents or pretty little flowers in. Happy spring, everybody!